All right, hello everyone and welcome. I'm Kelsey Woodworth, the Content Marketing Manager here at GiveSmart. And today we're going to talk about how you can expand your mission's reach both virtually and socially, and how that looks when you're seeking new donors, social followers, a new board, and more. And so we have two lovely speakers with us today. Christina Bello, Digital Marketing Manager from Ronald McDonald House Charities of Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana. I had to take a breath, it's such a long name. Brandon Steck, our Director of Marketing here at GiveSmart. So thanks you two for joining.
Thanks, Kelsey. Happy to be here.
Thanks, looking forward to it.
All right, we anticipate going around 45 minutes today, so please do send us questions as we go. You'll see the little questions box on the right-hand side of your screen, and we will address them as we go if they're relevant. Otherwise, we will save them for the Q&A session at the end. Also, just a few housekeeping bits. We are recording this today, so you can look out for that recording with the presentation in a follow-up email later this evening. And just a quick note, I'm really excited to announce that our latest initiative, the GiveSmart Power Up Learning Tracks, has launched. So how this works is that you can opt into one of these three programs, and whichever one is of interest to you, or maybe all three. And each week for 4 weeks, you'll receive an email from us. And each of those emails is going to contain relevant articles, videos, success stories, activities, discussion points, really just like a handful of all of these things for you and your team to work together on as you look to further your fundraising. So we will drop the link in the chat to that page, so please do check them out. And if you want to, feel free to contact me directly if you have any questions. Okay, great. So now we're gonna go ahead and launch a quick poll. And basically, as you strategize for your fundraising, do you regularly consider ways to reach new groups of donors? So yes, somewhat, maybe, or help in. So Christina, while everyone weighs in, could you please give us a brief overview of what you do for the Ronald McDonald House Charities?
Sure, absolutely. So like Kelsey mentioned, I'm the Digital Marketing Manager for Ronald McDonald House Charities of Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana. So we're one of the US chapters for the larger Ronald McDonald House organization. And what I manage are pretty much all of the digital marketing assets and channels that we operate. So that includes our website, all of our email marketing, as well as all of our social media channels. So it's a lot of fun and keeps me busy.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing. And okay, here are the results of the poll. And Brandon, over to you. What do you make of this?
I'm really happy to see that people are looking to grow their base. Pretty much majority of everyone is at least in the mindset that we know we need to be doing some stuff here. And excited to really address any questions around the topic of engaging more and getting some of these new groups involved. As we've talked about this topic a little bit, but really happy to dive in, and I'm sure Christina's got some really great advice that'll inspire some thoughts here for everyone.
Yeah. All right, cool. So without further ado, what we're going to talk through today are these three sections: success stories from your peers and how they pulled off reaching a new audience, marketing and promotion musts for your virtual campaign, and why these different tactics work, and then finally types of virtual and hybrid events that you can host to expand your organization's reach. So Brandon, will you kick us off with some success stories and how these organizations pulled off reaching a new audience, and then we'll go over to Christina with her experience of the Ronald McDonald House Gala.
For sure. So our first example is My Friend's Place, which we recently did an outside the room webinar with them, and hopefully everyone was able to attend that. But really an amazing story here of how they took a current conversation point and a panel that they've been looking to have and have the conversation with their donors, their supporters. We're really happy to share that they had great growth, and we'll share how they did that through social. But really what they did is they often host these educational panel discussions. My Friend's Place, just so everyone's aware of what they do, is they're a youth home and shelter that focuses on LGBTQ community, which of course is not unique to LA, but they are based in the LA area. And they hosted this discussion that was about race and how it's a factor in what they do and their cause. And they hosted this utilizing some YouTube and obviously hosting it on YouTube here, as you can see. They had to make this virtual. So YouTube was their way to do the outreach, and they were able to connect many different speakers to bring their cause kind of to light and show, through this panel what's being affected. They actually told us they had some what we'd call like unexpected fundraising through this, because this really isn't a fundraiser for them. They really just were trying to create awareness and share who they are. But it ultimately led to more social followers and new donors, which is obviously always icing on the cake. Why is this a great example? It's an educational approach. It touches on a greater nationwide issue, but it brought the cause local and allowed it to really resonate with folks that are supporters or want to be supporters of their cause. Now, my friend space, they do have, some great reach and some supporters that are celebrities, which helped kind of expand the message. But the core message was bringing it back to your cause, whatever the topic is. You can do this in many different ways. If you're an animal shelter, could you maybe host a virtual puppy training school, or talk about how to get your puppy more acclimated to being home with you so often, as we all are not in offices? All these different things that could relate to what people are going through right now. Having a panel discussion or having a speaker allows people to just attend and see the knowledge and the wisdom that's out there. Things of that nature extend to the realm of your mission, and it doesn't pigeonhole you by geographic location. Obviously, if there's a supporter anywhere, they can participate. So we'll expand a little bit here on their social side of things. Like I mentioned, luckily they have some celebrity support. So when you look here, there's a few supporters that are big names, and that's really great for them and that helped them. But that doesn't mean you need to have Miley Cyrus or Halsey there to support your cause to get the word out. There are influencers and well-known people in every community who can be set up for social partnerships, or you can build your own network of people. If you have a core network of people that are well-known around your cause, or if there is someone well-known around your cause, try to bring them into the mix. Businesses and organizations in your community, especially sponsors, are great hosts for these things as well. They have a network of their own. They're trying to expand that. They're trying to really get ahead of this crazy world that they're all dealing with. So think of how you can incorporate them as you go as well. Cross promotion as well is a great thing to think about. When you have social media, don't just have things sit on your own page. If you have a sponsor who has a good social media following, even if they have a small one, have them really push the message out there through their networks. And it's not just, hey, we're supporting this. It's recording a video of why, or creating a message that's going to resonate with donors and supporters, but also get the followers. And through this, they had, I'm trying to remember, I believe they had over 1,000 new followers on social media just from this one campaign, this one panel discussion they hosted. And it's not the only thing they do. You can see here, they have Spirit Day, they have assemble snack packs for their youth, all kinds of different things that are engaging folks. If you don't have a designer or someone in-house who can do great design for social cards and things like this, you can use some free tools that are out there as well. But we'll dive into some of the more social stuff as we go. I'm going to toss over to Christina. They had this really awesome Ungala event that she's going to talk about.
Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
Sorry, I just want to jump in. We had a question come in, either Brendan or Christina could speak to this, but before we totally move on from the celebrity thing, someone asked, we don't have a celebrity connection to tap into, but we don't know if our board, volunteers, or donor base might have. So is this something you'd recommend we inquire? How do we engage those groups to potentially help get our message out there?
Absolutely, that's a great question. The first thing is to always make sure you're connected to your board members on social to get an idea of what their presence is. It's all the locations, so LinkedIn, YouTube, all the different places you can find them, because you never know who it's got already has a presence out there. But also their businesses are a great way to connect. To gain followers like this, there's obviously this service out there to go buy and advertise. And Christina and I are going to talk about that a little bit later, of just ways to grow. But the board is really one of your biggest avenues, and having them share content you've already produced makes it really easy on them. So send them the links to the content that you publish, and ask them to share it. Balance that, obviously, because you don't want to overwhelm their own group of followers, but you want to really have a nice cadence where they're sharing stuff that is either resonating specifically for them or connects to an upcoming campaign or fundraiser that they can get the word out. Hopefully that answered the question there.
All right, yeah, over to Christina.
Great, yeah. So I'm happy to talk about our Ungala. So this is a bit of a timeline of kind of how this event played out. The original date for our normal in-person gala event this year was May 2nd. We had already sent out invites, had all the event planned when COVID really started to kind of hit, particularly here in Chicago. We decided very early on in realizing we had to change our tactics this year, that we didn't want to reschedule the event and just hope things would be better later on in the summer or the fall. So we wanted to keep that May 2nd date as a goal. So that was really important, just for us all to get on the same page and keep with that plan. So we had about 6 weeks to make this event happen, which was exhilarating in a lot of ways, and gave us some opportunities to try some things that we wouldn't have been able to do or really thought of doing otherwise. So essentially what we did was we turned a one-night in-person event into a nearly month-long fundraising campaign that culminated in 4 days of live stream and interactive content. And then we had a final live streamed Ungala celebration with our CEO. We had a guest host. We had a featured family that we wanted to have a conversation with. And again, I won't walk through kind of the full dates here, but one of the other benefits that we had kind of going through launching this Ungala and doing so much of this virtually and digitally was March 15th, basically, we had also launched the redesign of our website. So we also had a lot of new options for building an engaging web experience for the event that we think really helped make the event engaging and interesting, gave us some new opportunities to tell stories and just make it visually interesting for people to follow in that way. This also gave us an opportunity to present the event to a much broader audience than we had in the past. We can talk about this. Actually, Chelsea, if you want to go to the next slide, we can talk a little bit about who our audiences were and who the donors were and how we engaged them. So you can see from this was self-reported. When people made a donation, we asked them how they heard about us. So most of those self-reported responses had an existing relationship of some kind with us. They were either an existing donor, they were a family who had stayed with us, either current or in the past, a volunteer. But a lot of people heard about us in different ways. We were running some radio and TV interviews. Our event was featured in some local news pieces, which was really a big help. Word of mouth is always a big thing to get people who already have an existing relationship share this with their friends or their community. So being able to kind of track how people had heard about our event or about us was really helpful in understanding where our donors were coming from. And then if you want to go to the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about where those actual donors came. So this was a breakdown of once people donated, we could see where they were coming through. So this is a big thing for us to be able to track. So the peer-to-peer was, for new donors, the biggest way that we were able to engage them. And what those were primarily was families who had set up fundraisers on our behalf and engaged their communities to donate. So, you know, current and former families were able to reach out to their community, their friends, their supporters, and engage them to donate. These are people that we likely would not have reached otherwise. So being able to expand our audience in this way was huge for us. And again, you can kind of see it was nearly 60% of the new donors came through peer-to-peer platform, which was, again, just a big opportunity that we would not have had if we had kept the in-person event. We also gave people a range of ways to donate. I mean, you can see through this list, there was peer-to-peer, there was directly on our website, we added pop-up banners on our site, we had several email communications going out to various audiences, we had an online auction, they could text to donate, we had social media opportunities to donate through Facebook. So really just being able to kind of be anywhere someone wanted to donate was big for us. And again, ways that we would not have done, that we had not done in the past with just an in-person event. And one thing just to mention, the auction was really interesting for us in that it gave people who were new donors and may not have donated to us otherwise an opportunity to say, oh, well, I like, you know, what the items are in this auction, so this is interesting, this is cool, I'll donate for the chance to win this thing. And then that gives us an opportunity to engage with them further and hopefully continue that relationship down the line. So that's just a little bit about what our Ungala campaign was.
It's awesome.
Hey, and so,
sorry, I know there. Go ahead, Kelsey. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that Misericordia, you know, also ran a live, like live stream gala. It wasn't, you know, over the course of a month like the Ungala was, but I was hoping you would kind of talk through the details of what they did.
Absolutely. And I will let you do the transitions here, and I will just focus on these slides here. So Misericordia is an organization here in Chicago, well known. That this was their 60th annual gala, and typically they have about 1,600 people in the seats at this gala. So really a large event that they charge a lot for the tickets. And their biggest fear as they had to pivot to going virtual was, how do we get people to come? They spent a lot of time doing research, and they joined us for a webinar to share some of the research they did behind the live stream and some of the techniques there. But their communication model was amped up. They really made sure that people were aware that they're going virtual. They bought in to this strategy and made sure that they were ready to go. And yes, it takes planning and takes time. So if your gala is this weekend, that's going to be tough. But if you have some time for the spring, and with the unsureness of everything going on, now is the best time to be doing the research, because these organizations really saw success, just like Christina was saying, of planning it out, finding new ways to engage. So they never really had done email campaigns. They put a lot of time into email campaigns focused on educating the donors that were always there, and then bringing donors that maybe didn't live in the area and never planned to attend into the fold by communicating out that this was an option for them. They used text messaging by contacting all previous attendees through the GiveSmart platform, which was a perk that they were able to take advantage of because they had all these people that were already in the system. All they had to do was go register. Instead of having people spend $175 per person to sit at a table, they had asked people to register their own virtual tables, invite their friends, and get together a group to register for free. And they gave prizes away for everyone who registered 12 guests. Obviously, if you have the chance to get 12 of your friends together on a virtual campaign to support a cause that you're passionate about and you get a prize, that was pretty cool for them. And they were able to get a lot of new people that way. So this led to about 3,000 people attending the virtual benefits, and not just registering, but attending, which is double, what they normally get. And that's what's really awesome is they were put all these efforts in. They did all the learning like you all are doing today. And the key thing that they pointed out is they really just amped things up and made people aware that this was going on. They knew that there were fears out there with the pandemic and everything going on there, but the promotion was a key thing behind that. And we did ask them if they would ever do a virtual campaign again, and they said blatantly, like, they're going to always have this option, which was really awesome for them to say that, because they obviously invested a lot of time and really put a lot of effort into that.
Brendan, I just want to jump in. We got a question that came in that asks, how do you justify ticket prices for a virtual event?
So I would, and Christina, obviously, if you have an opinion on this as well, let us know. But my thinking behind that would be on a virtual event, if there's some type of performance or something like that, if you have an artist performing, then there's definitely a reason to do that. But there's ways you can, instead of just having buy tickets, which makes it harder with a virtual campaign, having a different lower barrier of entry type offering where, register and buy a raffle ticket, or register and sign up for the auction and go win an auction item, and different things that'll get them engaged. It is harder to sell tickets on a virtual campaign if it's just a 70, half hour or 45-minute campaign. But number one best practice is to always ask for the donation as kind of your ticket price. Often people who are going to attend anyways. So for instance, Misericordia's tickets were $175. They still ask, hey, are you still willing to make that donation? As part of their checkout, like it was an instant donation that they did. So that's one way to do that, is to ask for the donation as they register. It's softer, but you're going to get the donations, and then you just have to do a few more creative things to keep on engaging them.
Yeah, and from Ronald McDonald House's perspective, when we did our event, like I said, we had already sent out invites. We had some people who had already bought tickets. We already had sponsors lined up. So for those folks, we asked them if they would be willing to transition their ticket price into just a straight donation. For sponsors, we asked them to continue their sponsorship, and we would continue to recognize them during the event. But yeah, we didn't charge tickets for our Ungala, and that's, kind of the change of perspective of how we looked at the event, is we didn't look at it as a one-day event that we were selling tickets for, but a month-long or 3-week campaign leading up to that. And I'll talk a little bit kind of about how we tried to engage people and kind of share the value of what it is that we're providing families that they could give to and support.
All right. Thank you both for your input on that. So for this next section, we have 2 marketers with us today. So we are in luck, marketing and promotion musts for your virtual campaigns and why these tactics work. So Christina, first, over to you on where things tend to get sticky when going to a virtual or hybrid event.
Sure, absolutely. So one of the biggest transitions, and I feel like I've mentioned this already, is completely changing who your audience is. And that was the biggest challenge for us, but also presented the most opportunities. So in those kind of final 4 days of the campaign that we were doing, we offered a bunch of different opportunities for people to get involved, different types of programming for a bunch of different audiences. So we knew there would be families who were now at home with their kids who would be interested in getting engaged. So we did some live stream events that featured Ronald McDonald to do a little magic show for the kids and their parents. We knew there would be, we have a large amount of grown-ups in our audience, so we did an interview with some sports figures to get that audience engaged. For people who weren't able to, view any of those live streams in the moment, we also offered some opportunities for people to participate in activity and then share their photos later. So we did a drawing activity. We did, post your photos of movie night. So lots of different ways for people to engage and appeal to people with different interests as well. Another thing that we did to diversify the audience and ways for people was offering different ways for people to give. So like I mentioned, we had the auction, we had text to give, we had peer-to-peer options. So again, trying to meet our new audience where they were and provide a lot of different opportunities for them to get engaged that way. One of the biggest new things that we did with the virtual event was we reached out to sponsors and asked them to record a video sharing why sponsoring and being engaged with our organization was important to them. And these went over really well, both with our audience and with the sponsors. And then we shared those videos on our social media channels. And this was the first time we had done this. The sponsors loved it as a way both to kind of share their charitable giving and their message. And it was another way, honestly, for them to advertise what they do and their relationship to their community that was not an option or we hadn't done before when we did the in-person event. So that was a great opportunity, and the sponsors really seemed to appreciate and enjoy that opportunity. And a couple of them reached out and said they would like to be able to do that again, which we are all on board with. The other thing that we did, again, to kind of diversify the audience and help reach new people, was we also reached out to past and current families and volunteers and individual donors and asked them to record videos that we shared on our social media channels, on our website, about why Ronald McDonald House was important to them and why it made a difference in their lives. And I think we got between 40 and 50 submissions from families and volunteers and donors that we were then able to share so many of those stories and experiences, not only during the Ungala event, but then over the course of the summer and now leading into the end of the year. So it gave us a lot of content to work with. And as I think most people know and understand, we can tell the stories ourselves, but it's so much more impactful coming from the families or volunteers or donors that we actually engage in, hearing their stories in their own voices. So those are a couple of the ways that we tried to reach new audiences and engage new people.
And can I just add, I think, one, it's obviously those are going to be the impactful videos, and I think it's amazing what you guys are doing with utilizing that. We're going to talk about how you're using some of those, but also keep in mind when you diversify your audience, there's also the opportunity to kind of create connections through networking and professional events. You have the opportunity for people who either in the work environment or are looking to find a job or network in that fashion. You have this opportunity of this captive audience, and there are opportunities to create virtual experiences that allow them to network and meet new people, because oftentimes meeting together for a cause that matters is often a way that an organization or an individual finds a new connection, and picking specific segments that kind of will help that event stand out is really going to help your future events as you continue to expand and do more things. As we all know, we have to do more than just one big thing to kind of accomplish all that. And that's why Christina's team was able to come up with all the different programming. And if you have the appropriate messaging for the right segment and understand how to communicate with them, whether it's professionals in a networking event or families or people with young children, it's making sure you're putting the right message out there to diversify. If you're able to nail down a niche interest, you're going to get a lot more of an engaged audience who are definitely more likely to participate. it's going to have this comfort level for them. And if you're concerned about donor data, or we don't know enough about our donors, now is a great time to start looking to dive in and see what what can we find on social media about some of these donors that we're trying to engage, or new donors we're trying to get in the door. Are they part of giving societies or networking groups? Do some research on that, and that will help you diversify as you go. And this holiday season is a great time to test out segmenting and look at how can we bring maybe some excitement out of this group that we've really been going after, whatever that group might be. I think we're going to jump forward here and talk a little social media. So I am not good at Instagram myself, but as an organization, we have really been putting some time and focus on learning more about Instagram. I can definitely say that Christina and her team have done some great work with utilizing Instagram for engagement. If any of you have watched The Social Dilemma, or that social media is really nothing more than engaging with the other users. It's what keeps us interested and attentive. That's that scrolling experience, the exercise of just scrolling through your phone is so unconscious for people that you have to stand out and try some different things. And you can see here, Christina and the team have some different imaging, and they've tagged people and they've put some different stuff out there that is really going to differentiate their page when you scroll through. Obviously, video and photo content. I hope everyone is well aware that there's an opportunity there to both of those. And Christina, I know we were talking the other day. How's Instagram kind of changed for you guys?
Sure. So it's been interesting. So I love Instagram. I think it's one of the best ways to tell a story. I think it's such visually makes such a visual impact, and is so engaging that way. The challenge with it, obviously, is it's hard to get people to make that transition from Instagram to make a donation or buy a ticket necessarily. But we primarily use it for awareness and engagement in that way, getting people to share content, like content, comment. But the storytelling and the visual aspects of it really are key for us. And telling the family stories, telling the stories of families who are currently staying or going home. You can see a picture here of two kids who did a wish list drive for us and brought their gifts to the house and dropped them off. Some photos of another fundraiser event that we did, actually two fundraisers that we had going on. So getting that storytelling going really has just been key for us. And then being able to echo that through our other social channels, and when people see, the story elsewhere, it triggers in their memory that they saw that on our channels. So that's one of the things we just loved about it.
And messaging is changed in other ways too, right? Like we're going to talk a little bit about LinkedIn, and I know you had some thoughts there of how that's really been a completely different world lately.
Yeah, absolutely. And for both really on all of our channels, it's changed. In the past, a lot of our content, or I shouldn't say in the past, more specifically prior to COVID, a lot of our content was around volunteer groups and family activity nights, as well as the family stories and the donor stories. And now, without having as many volunteer groups in our houses, without having those family activities, how do we continue to engage people through those different social channels? And for LinkedIn in particular, some of the primary content that we used on LinkedIn was to talk about the volunteer opportunities that we had for organizations or corporations that wanted to bring a group to volunteer at our houses to make meals for families or do a family activity. So the challenge is figuring out, how to change that messaging to continue to engage corporate groups who may not be getting together in person right now. So what we've done, we feature sponsor videos and opportunities for organizations to sponsor meals, or if they are doing any small groups, those are still some opportunities. But changing, how we're engaging with those groups and figuring out what messaging is connecting with them And LinkedIn in particular has been interesting for us. It has one of the highest growth rates of our social channels. So we know people are interested and engaged there. And it's just understanding who the audience is and what they are interested in seeing. So primarily what we've done there has been, again, focusing on ways organizations can still get involved, and then continuing to share impact stories. So organizations who want to see what it is that we do and the difference they can make has been really important.
That's awesome. And I'm going to talk a little bit about YouTube, which, oftentimes it's not really the first social media platform that people think of when it comes to interaction, but keeping a video online and having that video content available for people to go find, comment, like, and even subscribe to your page is definitely one of the ways people are more engaging with organizations. You can see here my friend's place has 428 subscribers to their page. They post a lot of different videos. Their content is visual. Their message is in video, and they've done a great way of talking through with their donor base and their supporters what their differences are between them and organizations and how they're making a difference in their community. You can see there's all kinds of different content, and sometimes it doesn't have to be a high-end video that you record. If you can do a simple conversation, we've done some just one-to-one, like jam sessions, we call them, where it's just a conversation and the content is simple enough where it gets to the point, but you're able to tie in your message and your mission to share that in a way that's easily consumable. It doesn't always have to be a hour-long video. It can be in snippets, and it can definitely can incorporate a lot of different of your leadership, as well as if you have a celebrity or someone who's really well followed, do so in video content, because that's a great way to create engagement. It's a great hub to also embed your videos. So in email, messaging, through your website, all these different places. YouTube is one of the better places to grab your embed code and embed that somewhere where people can go consume that, and it allows you to see the analytics of where they're seeing it, which is very important. So you can get an idea of where are people consuming the most information about our organization. Christina, you guys used YouTube, didn't you?
Yeah, we do. So like you said, we host a lot of videos there, but the best way that we found to use it, and particularly during our live stream event, was it gave us the option to embed the live stream video in our website. So even though we were streaming our live events across Facebook and YouTube, it gave us the option to put it on our website for people who don't have or don't want to engage through social media, so they could still participate just by visiting the website. So that was one of the best opportunities that YouTube gave us. And the other thing we've been using it for pretty frequently actually this summer is, again, since we aren't able to do as much kind of relationship building in person, is we've used it as a place to host videos that we share privately with organizations when we want to, shoot a short thank you video for them. We can keep it there and then share it, as well as for volunteers. If there's, a instructional video we need to share with them, it's a great opportunity there where it's easy to access and we know who's able to see it.
All right, great.
Sorry, one thing to add there. On social media, really any channel, the importance is to be consistent and have a frequency of posting. So whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's YouTube, or whether it's your typical places, Facebook or Twitter, you don't want to be overwhelming. You don't want to be that person. We all know that person in our networks that we've muted. But you do want to have a frequency and you want to be consistent. If you're always posting, or if you post a really great story, so for instance, maybe your update from the executive director gets a ton of views and a bunch of people like it, don't do that once. Have a consistency to that, or repeat what works. It's just, like anything else, you don't want to break something that's already fixed, and you don't want to really recreate the wheel. If it's working, keep doing it, but also test out some new messaging, test out some maybe new graphics, and have fun with your messaging, because that is a place where people can connect with you, and they'll be expecting content that continues to resonate as you get better and better at it. But don't have fear of over posting, but try to not be that person posting every hour either, I guess.
Yeah, definitely good points. And so kind of those communication things will roll into the next section as well, with types of virtual and hybrid events that you can host to expand your reach. So Christina, for kind of as we're looking forward in the coming months, what have you and your team been talking about?
So this has been a huge topic of conversation for us, as I'm sure with every other organization kind of thinking into next year. And like Brandon was saying about Misericordia, there is no reason we have found to not continue to do hybrid or virtual events like these in some form. Even though it may not be the exact same format as we did our Ungala, offering opportunities for people across who may not be able to be local with us, get involved, share their stories, reach out to their communities, and get engaged with us. Is to not do that, to me, is just a huge missed opportunity. And again, taking advantage of, even though it may not have been the way we would have liked to have done our gala this year, it gave us the opportunity to try a lot of different things and see what worked, and see what components of that we can use in future events.
Okay, and so Brendan, over to you on you mentioned this earlier, low barrier to entry, and what exactly does that mean, and how can that be used across? We have had some questions come in about, virtual, hybrid, and in-person events, and trying to figure out kind of how to weave them together, but also keep them separate, and how would this work into that?
Yeah, so a lot there. I'll start with my favorite concept this year. I feel like the low barrier to entry is the opportunity to expand your reach by getting someone in the door in something that is not the super expensive donation or the annual donation, or some way of just getting that engagement started. So a new person today may not be able to afford what a new person last year could afford, but they're able to afford something. We know, just based on the data that we've been providing and looking at GiveSmart, that people are donating now just as they are every time this time of year, especially as the holidays are wrapping up and the year is wrapping up. But getting that first donation is so key. So if it's a $5 raffle ticket, take the $5 raffle ticket, because that second donation is a lot easier to get than that first one. Once you have them in that door, you have the opportunity to create a lasting relationship. You have an opportunity to increase participation, and you have an opportunity to expand beyond just their donation, but to the next person. There's a lot of opportunity around that. So a couple examples we've seen lately when we think virtual, hybrid, these different types of events. One that really was awesome and we like to share quite often is the First Tee of Delaware had their voting contest around virtual bartender. They had different bartenders put together drinks and compare and do videos, and it was really a fun campaign, and we'll share that campaign. But also, it was a low barrier to entry. You didn't have to spend $100 to support your friend who was doing the contest or something like that, but they got a bunch of people in the door that were brand new, and they also had a 50-50 raffle for $5. So a 50-50 raffle, another way they can give, small investment for them, brand new person, gets them in the door, kind of gets them going. A lot of these techniques are not new, but they need to be reminded. They need to be something that will continue to focus on as we continue to see different campaigns. So you see on the right here, there's a few examples. All these things can be done in a virtual campaign. All these things can be done in a hybrid campaign. All these things can be done in a live event. And that's what's really great about having technology to support these different types of campaigns and components. We have tons of examples. I could go on for hours, and I know I don't have an hour. So I'll leave it there, but happy to answer any questions about how to pull these kinds of things off, pull them together, and make sure you're getting those new people in the door.
Yeah, Okay, so just going to wrap up with our takeaways, and then we'll jump into Q&A. We have a lot of questions coming in, so if you haven't already submitted one, please feel free to send us a question. But our 3 takeaways that we want to leave you with from today is to, 1, be flexible and willing to take a risk. You know, there's no time to analyze when you're kind of thinking on the fly, and your supporters are there because they care and they want to help. So if you're, doing one of these hybrid or virtual events for the first time, they'll forgive you for tech hiccups. Of course, we want something quality to be pulled together for them, but know that they don't expect it to be perfect. And with social, sometimes you just have to learn by doing and just going ahead and putting something out there and seeing how your audience reacts. Second is to ask for help when you need it. People are willing to help these days, whether it's financially if they can, or they have skills. So don't be afraid to ask for their knowledge, their inputs to offer. We had a question earlier about, asking your supporters and your board and your volunteers about their personal contacts or maybe their professional contacts. Definitely ask. People who support your cause will be willing to share that information with you. And lastly, communicate. So you have to communicate to keep your doors open. And as Brandon mentioned previously about frequency, find the frequency that's right for your organization and stick with it, whether it's across social or email. Stay in touch with everyone and let them know what you're up to. And so moving into questions. Okay, this first question is going to be for Brandon. So Brandon, what tools do you see? Sorry, there's a fire truck going by. I don't know if you guys can hear me, but what tools do you see organizations using for peer-to-peer fundraising?
Well, I heard you clearly there. The firemen weren't that loud, but I'm a little biased. GiveSmart, we offer peer-to-peer fundraising as part of our platform, and highly recommend people who are already customers or currently looking at the platform to check out that feature, as we rolled that champion fundraising feature out recently. There are tons and tons of platforms out there for peer-to-peer. But the key thing is when you're talking about tools for peer-to-peer, it's also thinking about how to spread the word and how to really prepare your champions, as we would call them, or peer-to-peer fundraisers to be successful. So recruit within something like LinkedIn, post to get champions or post to get peer-to-peer fundraisers. Those are people who have networks already, often are paying attention to what's going on in their networks. And a great way to do that, it's kind of a nice way to grow your own network and followers on your page. The tools really are also, around having, the ability to promote as a peer, as a fundraiser on your behalf. So be prepared to give them messaging and things like that. So when they go and they get going, they're going to have a social post ready to go. They already know kind of how to talk about your organization. And when you look at any peer-to-peer tool, make sure it works within the realm of your fundraising. So if you're trying to just do peer-to-peer and that's the only thing you're ever going to do, then it's fine to have just a peer-to-peer tool. But if you're looking at other campaigns and things like that, look for something that maybe works in cohesiveness, is integrated, because that allows you to bring all those people donating to those campaigns, those champions, to your other campaigns. So if you have a silent auction running, you want to invite those people to support that because maybe they want to do both, and the cohesiveness and the integration between those tools is crucial.
Okay, thanks. This next question is for Christina. So back to what you were talking about earlier with text messages. The question is, was there any pushback on text messages? We were always concerned about sending text messages to our donor base when it isn't connected to an event that they have opted into.
So we actually didn't do push text messages. The only text option that we did was text to donate. So that was if people wanted to, particularly during our live stream events, we had a banner running across the bottom with the text to donate number, so they could just text that number to make a donation, versus sending them away from the live stream event to our webpage to make that donation. So we didn't do text pushes. But yes, I hear the concern too, and we were debating that for the same reason.
Yeah, and one thing to think about outside of an event, so throughout the year, if you have a new video or you have a new a story to tell. Maybe you put up a new research study. There's nothing wrong with sharing that link through text message. They're an engaged audience, but have a message. Don't just send out a text to get a donation. Have a message and draw them in through content and communication and videos and fun things. Maybe you have an upcoming contest. Maybe you want to try the virtual bartender contest and you want people to participate and go check it out or become bartenders for the contest. There's no harm in doing some messaging that way, but we do value our cell phones as being private. You don't want to be that one blasting messages that are just donate, 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 or be the person who messages me all the time saying they want to buy my house in some city I don't live in. So there's definitely that world out there of over the top. You can definitely have a good message out there if you're thinking, oh, I need to find a way to get this video in front of people.
Yeah. Okay, here's another question for Christina. Looking ahead to your 2021 gala, are you planning an in-person event or another ungala?
So one thing we've already done is we've already pushed it out. We usually do our gala in the spring, and we've already pushed it out to next fall in the hopes that we can do some kind of in-person something. What that looks like, we don't know yet, but we are absolutely trying to figure out how to integrate some kind of virtual component of that, as well as integrating or leading up to that, also doing a fundraising campaign that culminates in that gala event. So similar to what we did this year, in that it was a kind of a capstone to a longer campaign with a lot of virtual components. But we are hoping to do something in person by next fall, but definitely want to incorporate some virtual components into that.
Okay, so I have another question about the Ungala. Was your event communication only through email, or did you do a mailed invitation as well?
So before we had to transition, we had done a print mailing, but pretty much a week, I think, after that print mailing went out was when we had to transition to virtual. So we did not do a follow-up print invite to the virtual event. At that point, it was all email and digital communication.
I have a question on that. Christina, do you guys do an annual campaign with a mailer still, or have you gone digital with that?
We do. So we do. We're actually getting ready to do our end of year print mailing campaign. We also do 2 print newsletters and a print annual report every year, as well as a holiday card. So we have a couple different print pieces going out, as well as print invites for 2 of the other major fundraisers that we do.
Okay, cool. Sorry, I'm just sifting through it. Okay, the next one is, our event had fabulous baskets worth $500. Do you think these would do well as a virtual raffle or auction, or should we auction these items separately? That could be for either of you.
I'll take that one. We did the silent auction study earlier this year before everything went on with the pandemic, and we've checked that data since. And one thing we know with baskets is, depending on the fair market value, they do very well in regards to the number of bids, regardless of where you're located. And then they do really well in getting some return. People, often will buy those, but $500, just from my knowledge, is a little bit higher of a fair market value for a basket. But I still think there'd be a lot of value in doing that as an auction. A raffle, or even you can do kind of a mystery basket. So one way to think of it is, maybe because of their value, you can do a really high-end game of chance that is, going to get you more of that value. You can do maybe a $250 mystery basket and get at least 50% of the value out of it. Now, you might get more in the auction. That's something you would want to kind of do an analysis on and really look at. And happy to field questions if you want to shoot me an email further on that. But there's definitely some techniques and some newer things we're seeing that are getting popularity.
Okay, I mean, this question also could be for either of you. We probably have time for just a couple more, but what's the best way for a smaller nonprofit to do one of these events? We've noticed less of our supporters have been able to help out this year.
So it doesn't have to be thousands of people to be a strong virtual campaign. The key elements really do come in to the diversity that you can build in there. So the programming is a great example. The things that Ronald McDonald and Christine and the team did can apply to any organization. You don't need to be a huge organization with thousands and thousands of donors to run those kinds of programs. You can do a program that is more niche, that fits your donors. The other thing to think about is it doesn't have to be a full-fledged gala style event. It can be a week-long event or a 2-week-long event, or you can break it up into different things that allow donors, again, to participate at more their availability and also incorporate the whole family. So much we're seeing now is, the opportunity for the kids to do a project during the gala, and an art project or a fun craft project, or maybe everyone makes dinner together and you put together kits for them to make the dinner. All these different ideas are now coming to fruition, and there's an opportunity to do, even if it's a smaller group, a really effective campaign. And yes, there are people who are not able to give as much as they were before, and that's why it's so important to continue to bring in new donors. But maybe they can do something. Start with a low barrier to entry. Start with something that maybe gets some engagement and create some fun around it. That's gonna help for sure.
Yeah, and to second what Brandon was saying, and he said this earlier, the biggest thing, and this was true for us as well, is to understand our audience and figure out how to make that event connect with what it is that you do and how they can understand it. So one of the big things that we tried to do with the events that we had kind of in that final week of the campaign during the 4-day gala events was to make these little mini events reflective of the services that we offer in our houses, that volunteers engage in, that families engage in. So there was kind of that direct kind of mission connection. But really the biggest thing is to understand the audience and what they are interested in and why they're supporting you, and connect to that. But yeah, to second Brandon as well, it doesn't have to be a big blown out event. So really craft it to who you're trying to reach.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, the last question that we're going to ask today is about wine fundraisers. So this could be for both of you. Oops, where did it just go? Could you talk about a wine pull or other wine-related fundraising, and is that something that you're seeing organizations do virtually?
I can absolutely. Organizations are doing wine polls virtually. Delivery is, I think, what everyone's fear is, and there's several examples that we have out there currently about doing a wine event or doing a different type wine poll virtually. We have tons and tons of examples. We have a few organizations that actually did a virtual wine tasting. It went so well, it's sold out. They're doing it again just to make sure everyone who wanted to participate can. We will drop a few links into the follow-up email as well of all these examples. But with the wine poll, what's really unique about these things is it's a game of chance. So everyone gets something. They don't know what necessarily they're going to get, but if you have a variety, that's nice. And basically, everyone buys a quote-unquote ticket, or really they're buying a wine bottle. And on a live event, they'd buy a cork, and they don't know which one it is, but that number would associate with whichever wine bottle they get, and they get to take home a bottle of wine. It could be a $10 bottle of wine. It could be barefoot wine, or it could be a really nice, expensive bottle of wine that was donated. And that's the game. That's the chance they're taking. But you charge an average price, $25 to $30 usually, and those do very well virtually because, again, low barrier to entry, and they also allow people to get something, take something home, or get something delivered at home. One of the really great things is, these things have kind of a lighter lift. It just depends on, if you have some people to support you, you can set up pickups if you have mostly people local doing pickup. But we have some examples. We'll share those over. But events around wine, and even if it's something where it's just bring your best bottle of wine to do a virtual happy hour together, those do relatively well. I get really excited over wine, I think.
Don't we all?
It's a common theme. Okay, well, thank you so much, you two. And just want to, one more time, let everyone know we have these learning tracks available. We also have recently launched GiveSmart's community, and you're all invited to be a part of it. Community brings together nonprofit leaders who aim to accelerate their fundraising through peer examples, industry insights, and relationship building. And lastly, our next webinar will be about kickstarting 2021 and how you can approach a year that you can't plan for. So all these links will be in the follow-up email. And that is all. Thank you again to Christina and Brandon for joining us today. If you have 30 seconds after this, please fill out our survey and have a great rest of your day.